Praise be Jesus Christ and Mary Immaculate. Welcome to this 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. We're going to read from the Gospel of Mark chapter 12, verses 38 to 44. In this passage, the Gospel writer Mark brings us to a very powerful moment in the life of Jesus. It is set in the Jerusalem temple, the center of the religious life for Israel. And it is at this place and at this moment that Jesus directly condemns the religious leaders who have strayed away from their calling of being shepherds to God's people, bringing them closer into a deeper relationship with God. This passage is a wake-up call not only for the religious leaders, but also for us, challenging us to reflect on how our own lives and our own institutions, both religious and civil, how they align with the mission of Jesus or how far away they have become, how close we are to being faithful to the call to service. Jesus begins with a very bold warning: beware of the scribes. And this is huge. Think about it if you were a practicing Jew at the time of Jesus, and Jesus says, beware of the scribes. That's like for us Catholics today. Jesus shows up and says, beware of the bishops. Beware of canon lawyers. Beware of this, beware of that. These were respected leaders. They were the religious authorities. They were the ones who were supposed to be guiding the people to God. But Jesus sees that in practice, they're doing something very different. They're doing the opposite. They're leading people to themselves. He accuses them of using their positions for status and honor rather than for service. Jesus says they walk around in long robes and they show off their privilege. They seek respect in public and sit in the best places at the gatherings, not to serve, but to be served and acknowledged. Let's pause here and reflect. Who are we when no one is looking? Are there times when we too want to be noticed for doing good, rather than doing good simply because it pleases God? Do we too want to be recognized and noticed? Let's continue. Jesus exposes how these leaders, instead of lifting others up, are actually, and pay attention to this phrase, because it's tragic. Instead of lifting people up who are down, Jesus says they devour the houses of widows. Just think of the image of devouring the house of a widow, taking from the most vulnerable to feed themselves. Widows in Jesus' time were amongst the most defenseless members of society. Yet these leaders exploited even the poverty of widows. The temple had the obligation of caring for widows and orphans. The temple had the obligation to make sure that widows and orphans had everything they needed to live dignified lives. And here, the temple and the religious leaders, instead of being life-giving, are taking life from the poor. Jesus continues that the religious leaders made long prayers, not to connect with God, but to appear holy, using religion as a tool for self-interest. Let's consider our intentions. When we serve or when we give, is it done with a sincere heart, or are we seeking recognition or a reward? And here comes the heart of the scene. It's devastating, actually. Jesus watches people place their offerings in the temple treasury. The treasury was supposed to be used to care for the widows and the orphans. Many wealthy individuals gave large sums, but then a poor widow arrives, offering 2 small coins, practically nothing. The widow is bringing 2 small coins that the gospel writer doesn't even tell us the value of them, because they had no value to them. It was practically nothing, but for her it was everything. And noticing this, Jesus calls his disciples to himself and he says, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all others. She has given everything she had, all she had to live on. Listen to that phrase again. She has given everything she has, everything that she has to live. she has given to the temple. This may sound very nice and pious. This is devastating. This is devastating because it implies that the woman has given to the temple everything that she has, and now she's going to die. The widow's offering, for sure, is a powerful symbol of faith and trust in the providence of God, for sure. She gives all that she has, and she holds nothing back. Yet there is a deeper truth here that Jesus reveals. His words are not just praise for the widow's faith. It's actually a very sorrowful lament. Jesus is crying. Jesus is hurt. It's a sorrowful lament over seeing a widow that has become a victim of a religious institution that has failed her, because the temple should be caring for her. She should not be poor or needy if the temple was doing its job. She should not have to give her last coin to a system that, instead of serving her, takes everything from her. Right after this, Jesus declares that this very institution will fall. It would fail and it would fall. He says, "Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." Jesus makes it clear, any religious institution, civil, political, nation, or country, that instead of serving people, serves itself, has no right to exist. This is the challenge of Jesus for us. Are we, as individuals or as a community, religious or civil? We can ask this even of our countries. Are we lifting up the vulnerable, giving them dignity and strength? Or are we holding on to power, reputation, and comfort at the expense of others? We continue. In this gospel, Jesus calls us to a radical honesty about our intentions and our actions. He asks us to live out a faith that is truly about serving and not just looking holy. So today, let's take this message to heart. Let's strive to be the kind of church, the kind of community that Jesus envisions. A church at the service of the gospel and of the poor. May our hearts, like the widow's, be filled with faith and trust. Yes, I hope that we do trust completely on God's providence. But may we also work to create a world where no one is left to give all that they have without receiving love, care, and service in return. God bless you.